Hey everyone, so since 8.24b, a few things have been moving around. We've had some ADC buffs, some sensor stuff, but I've found a bunch of things that are doing a lot better since the recent patch, and at least 2 of these are definitely top tier picks now. Technically, 8.24b is actually a hotfix, by the way, so stat websites aren't really separating them out, but we can check day-to-day win rates since Monday when it dropped to see what's a bit more hidden. This video is also kicking off a new partnership with Mobalytics, by the way, and that is where the builds will be coming from in the video. They've launched the most comprehensive, in-depth champion and profile stats website. You can filter by champion, see breakdowns of the games and stuff, but my favorite is the records tab. Apparently I got a 35 kill Kai'Sa game at one point during the season, my 38 KDA Lucian game, which I actually lost, by the way. I'll chuck a link down below. You can check out your own records and let me know some of yours in the comments. So mid lane AP Galio is our first pick of the video, and I think I can actually call this properly overpowered at the moment. It is way too good. It took a little while to figure this one out. So in 8.24, Galio was changed a fair amount. This ultimate no longer gives any bonus resistances. It doesn't have a longer knock-up in the middle, but his Q mana cost was actually lowered. The damage was changed a little bit so that it does way more percentage max health damage and less base as long as you're building AP. The dash as well is a lot faster now, but it deals reduced damage to minions. But with all of that though, AP Galio massively came back and nobody realized. His wave clear is so good now, but he can just hard shove the lane and poke at the same time, but his damage is crazy from his Q. He'll farm better anyway from range. He's going to push the enemy mid lane to stop them roaming, which is great. You have a lot of mid lane priority, which is something a lot of people don't talk about, but just trust me, it's really good. You build Protobelt into Relo and Zhonya's Mosi in Korea. The other part of this is the new rune shield bash, right, which just came in. It is so broken on him. Your W gives you a shield, and it is up to 20% of your maximum health, by the way, if you haven't taken damage for 12 seconds. That shield works with shield bash every time it refreshes, so it gives you a permanent increase to your magic resist and your armor while it's up, and your next auto attack does a crap ton of damage. The damage actually scales with the size of the shield as well, and it can get really big the more health you get. If you think about it, your first auto attack will be your shield bash, but it will also be your passive smash as well, which is 50% of your AP along with a bunch of other stuff. Basically, AP Galio now has amazing wave clear. You can push and you can poke, and then you have a really good roam, and you can help engage fights with your ultimate. That was our first true kind of overpowered pick in my opinion, and Soraka is our other one. So Sensor, Redemption, and Crucible were all buffed this patch, and our win rate has skyrocketed since the patch. Her poke damage is actually pretty obnoxious. You do really good damage early if you can hit your Q, which works in this meta because you have to play just a little bit more aggressively. Unless you can hard engage against Soraka and burst her down, you don't stand that much chance to do anything in the lane phase anymore. It becomes really difficult. She has a really good team fight as well, and this meta is like Fiesta meta where we fight all the time, right? So this is great, but you also have these constant heals. You have your ultimate and the items. Honestly, Redemption is an amazing teamfight tool. We're just not used to having it much anymore because a lot of champions we are playing don't build it. The thing is, Soraka also keeps an AD carry alive, right? Lets them farm more in the lane phase and farm better because even if they take some poke damage, it doesn't matter, but also do more damage later into team fights, which we're lacking right now. ADC's damage is not that bad if they can stay alive, which is a big if at the moment, so that is a massive part of why Soraka is good. I know all of that sounds a little bit far-fetched and weird, but genuinely give her a try. Build those items. Soraka has jumped to the highest win rate support since 8.24b by a mile. Kind of like a byproduct of that as well is Caitlyn. She's one of the AD carries that has benefited a ton from the sensor buffs, and she got buffs herself. So a Q does more damage to the first person it hits, which gives you a bit more kill potential when you EQ combo somebody, but also her ultimate is actually so useful now. It's 3,500 range. Now that is bottom buff, like a blue buff or red buff or whatever, to the mid lane range, by the way, and I picked up quite a few more kills or assists that way. I think it's also partly plates, but Caitlyn feels really good at the moment. Her damage is okay, but give him a sensor and the attack speed from that helps a ton. Think of it with Soraka. Imagine a Caitlyn high range now having more protection and heals from a Soraka. How do you beat that in lane anymore? With the headshots, it actually nukes down towers so fast. Even early game with just a BF sword or something, you can nab maybe 2 plays pretty easily if the enemy bot lane bases at the wrong time. You push harder than most AD carries, right? You have higher range, you bully, you poke, you keep them under tower, and you get this big CS lead and plate lead. That is kind of the difference right now. With the preseason changes and the sensor and the buffs and stuff, you're able to get a bigger lead mid game, which helps skip that weak part that Caitlyn kind of has mid game. In Korea, she is now the 4th most played AD carry after Ezreal, Lucian, and Kai'Sa, but that number, how many are playing her, is climbing every single day. Interestingly, Vlad wasn't even top 20 for like the past 5 patches or something, and now technically he's top 15, but not if you run this page. So Electrocute is okay, but it's not amazing anymore. But a lot of people are running Aerie, Phase Rush, or even actually Dark Harvest sometimes. We're going to focus on the Sorcery Tree Keystones again. They kind of run a mobility build with this, so Nimbus Cloak, the cooldown reduction Transcendence, and then Gathering Storm. Now item-wise, it's going to be Proto Belt into Spellbinder. We saw this a little bit a while ago, but it helps you get into fights, and it also gives you massive damage as you blow your load into a team fight. The other thing is your stat shard, and this is huge. Like, we take cooldown reduction in the first row, so that is 10% eventually, 10% from Transcendence, 10% from Proto Belt, and now we can go Sork Boots instead of more cooldown reduction. The shard is a really big difference maker, honestly, and it's actually brought him back a ton. You can still run your Electrocute or your Dark Harvest if you want to go into Domination. It's a great build. It's got loads of healing and stuff with the page. Sorcery Keystones just seem to be doing really well at the moment, and they're getting a lot more popular. But another really big reason why Vlad is coming back is because right now with this setup, he is actually beating stuff like Jax and Irelia, which are really popular. So if you don't want to ban those champions, or if you don't want to ban something like a Kali, you can use the Vlad pick instead. Like with the Kali, because of her Shroud and stuff, it doesn't really matter. Like, he has AoE damage, so he can still hit her. But as always with Vlad, you're going to have a really good late game, and if you get ahead in the lane phase, you can kind of roll over the entire game. So what if I told you for the next one that since Nunu's rework, he has been really, really bad? Sounds believable, right? But now this patch, he is first in win rate. Especially mid-game, he is like the ultimate engaged tank disruptor, and honestly, AD carries just don't have enough damage to kill him right now, and that's a really big problem. The runes are actually really clever, so let's start there today. Now, first off, you can run Predator if you want to, but we're looking at Aftershock since it wins a little bit more. So in the first row, we have Font of Life. It procs on a ton of stuff in your kit, and you heal everybody who is in that fight with you. It's actually really underrated as a rune. Conditioning makes you a tanky mofo, the flat boost and the 5% more, and then Revitalize is going to buff your consume healing and make it even harder to kill you. Sorcery secondary, we go Celerity with Water Walking, making you drift down the river with your snowball and stronger while you're in there if you pick a fight. The build is just Cinderhulk, Deadman's Visage. It is straight tank, and you get so insanely beefy with this. You're going to heal for a ton. You'll be very hard to kill, but you have really good engage and so many slows and crowd control and roots and stuff. Okay, so Ashe is actually now the second highest win rate AD carry in career behind Lucian, which is pretty insane. She does well against stuff like Kai'Sa, like Caitlyn, Vayne, because she can outrange them. She can slow poke with her volley and stuff. If you think about it, right? Kai'Sa wants to E forward to fight. Vayne with a tumble. Caitlyn will run forward as well. Now, you can just volley and kite away, and they can't really do anything about that. There's also this really cool page that I want to take a look at today. Now, to be fair, lethal tempo is very normal, and the most popular is obviously secondary, full damage option, going into absolute focus, and Gathering Storm. Now, we also have this version though, going into Inspiration and Approach Velocity. Most of you will probably have no idea what that even does, so as a refresher, you gain 15% move speed when running towards a champion you slow or stun. So for Ashe, she has very high range. If she slows anybody with a volley or auto attack, then she gains bonus move speed towards them and can chase them down. It is obviously a little bit less damage, but there's actually such a cool little synergy. Like in team fights as well, you'll be faster pretty much the entire time, especially when you're slowing everybody with your runes. And career as well, late game, she's actually one of the strongest AD carries. You kind of want to pair her up with like an old school damage lane, like a Brand or a Zyra or something, and they'll do the damage, and then you can set it up, you can slow them, make it easier to hit skill shots and stuff. It's actually brutal. For our next one, let's take a look at a new champion now she's been out a few weeks. In the mid lane, she is building Ludens, Morello, Zhonya's Deathcap with Comet normally, so that's a standard Korean build. We're actually looking at support today though. If you run the same, it doesn't really work that well, but if you run Aftershock, it really does. I've seen quite a few challenger players doing this, and I'm sure it's going to catch on a bit more as well, but it's way more under the radar for the moment, even though Nico is banned in about like 80 to 90% of games in Korea. Aftershock is actually very easy to proc with your E. It goes through minions, remember, and then if you dive in with your ultimate afterwards, you can't get burst as easily because you have all of the resistances. That is one of Nico's biggest issues. Like, if you dive into the fight to ult, you can get blown up, but not really anymore with Aftershock. It's a lot like why Lissandra is going to take it, if you want to think of it like that, or Fiddlesticks, for example, but she has really good poke. She can juke and outplay a lot with the clone system. Mages bring a stupid amount of damage right now, so it's not much of a surprise that we can stick her bot lane and make that work, but especially considering her ultimate does so much damage, it has a root, it's great setup. You can easily 1v1 the enemy AD carry or like set up really good ganks. So you guys are going to think that I'm memeing with this Warwick pick. He was given 2 AD in 8.24b, but apparently that is all all he needed. This is probably just like a placebo buff, so he was actually good before this, but he's doing a lot better now. He's not played a ton in career because it's not hard carry or damage enough for them or like fun enough for them, but when he is played, he has some amazing matchups. If you're sick of Xin Zhao or Lee Sin or Master Yi or Evelyn, you should try Warwick. Now, most people here in NA and EU go for Cinderhulk and build him tank. Now, Korea actually goes Red Smite Blood Razor a lot of the time into Hydra, a Deadman's Visage, or a Trinity Force if they're ahead. I guess that's kind of where they get their carry part from, otherwise they're obviously not going to play him at all, but Warwick's damage is actually pretty high. He's a bit too tanky to burst down, but he does enough damage to fight people. He heals as well, plus he fears on top of that, and that is why he can duel so many of these very strong junglers. Especially with sensor supports coming back at the moment, I think having some engage or a bit of a front line is actually really good, so probably going to see a bit more of him, but if anything, the more damage build is something you can try in your games. So there are 9 picks that are doing a lot better in career in 8.24b. Hopefully you enjoyed the video, and for now, I will leave you with the robots.